After my sister ruined me, my family and fiancé kicked me out. I need some help with this because I'm not sure what to do anymore. When he asked me to marry him, I was 21 years old. He made my whole world a better place. My family and mine are very close, so we've known each other since preschool. Every day he would come over for dinner, and every night we would do the same. I have two older sisters, but he doesn't have any. That's very important because he was also close with them. We were kids together. While we were dating, I think our parents celebrated for weeks on end. And even when I put on a little weight and my mom told me he was going to leave me because of it, he told her she was wrong, and told her he loved me for who I was, not how I looked, even though he said I was the most beautiful girl in the world to him. Before the event, we had only been engaged for 6 months. Nikki, my middle oldest sister, was very cold and never showed any love. The only person she ever opened up to was my fiancé because she said she saw him as a brother and he helped her through a lot of her bad times, like when she was addicted to drugs and breaking the law. We never agreed with each other. She was my sister, so I loved her very much, but I didn't like her as a person. We had never been to a club together before, so she tells me out of the blue that she wants to take me. She felt bad that she had been so distant from me. I agreed and we went out that night. I didn't really like going to clubs, but after a few drinks, I eased up and started having fun. Things were going well until Nikki saw a guy across the room and told him she wanted to climb him like a tree. The next thing she knew, she was back with a mean look on her face, having walked over to him. She didn't answer when I asked her what was wrong. I didn't give up because I didn't want our night to go badly. After that, she told me that the guy didn't want her number, but mine. He didn't listen when I told her that there were lots of guys who would kill to be with a girl like her. She wouldn't move though. She told me she had to go to the toilet, and that we would leave after that. I had to wait another hour. I was drinking a lot of different drinks at this point, and I started to feel really dizzy and faint. I chose to take a taxi home because I was sure Nikki had already left, but on my way out I ran into Nikki's friend, who she had dated for a short time. I told him I was taking a taxi when he asked if he could help me get to my car. He said we could share one because he was leaving soon. I told him it was fine, and we left the club together, getting into the first taxi we saw. As I looked for my phone in my bag, I could feel myself getting more and more dizzy. What happened next, I don't remember, because I passed out. The next morning I woke up on a hard sofa with a headache. When I woke up, I was at Nikki's friend's house, and my phone was on the glass table in front of me, but the battery was dead. When he saw that I was awake, he gave me some pills and water and told me that I had passed out in the taxi. He didn't remember where my parents lived, so he just picked me up and brought me back here, where he put me down on the couch. My fiancé would be worried, so I told him I had to go home. I left after he called a taxi. My mom, dad, Nikki, my fiancé, and his parents were all standing in the living room when I got to my parents' house. When I spoke up, my fiancé asked me how I could hurt him like this. I thought they were worried about me. I tried to tell him that my phone was dead, but he kept yelling that I had cheated on him. What was going on? Why would he think that? I tried to talk about what happened that night, but I kept getting cut off. Nikki then spoke up and told me I was lying. She asked how I could be so cold to a guy who has been there for me through good times and bad. She also said that I flirted with strange guys all night, and when she went to the toilet, she saw me leave with her friend. When I told her what had happened, she pulled out her phone and showed me pictures. He led me outside by putting his hand on my back. It did look bad in the picture, and I was so drunk I didn't even notice that he had his hand on my back. He was so mad at me. His mom and I were both crying because he wouldn't stop yelling. Then I told Nikki to call her friend, who would tell her that nothing happened. He told her a whole different story when she called him though. I asked him to take me back to his, and when he did, we slept together more than once. I got very angry with Nikki and began to cry and yell at her because I knew she planned this whole thing to make me look bad. Even though I begged him to believe me, he just shook his head and walked away. After everyone left, my mom hit me in the face and told me to leave. I left and spent a few nights at a friend's house. Those nights, I called my fiancé crying and begging him to believe me that nothing bad had happened. But he never called or texted me back, so I never got through. My mom texted me that she was kicking me out and that she couldn't believe I would do something so bad. She also used a lot of cruel words that I don't think I can say them all here. She threw everything away before I could even get my stuff. I was now without a house. My family wouldn't take me in because they were with my fiancé and mother. In less than 24 hours, I had nowhere to stay and no one to talk to. Nikki's lies brought about the end of my whole world. I did everything I could for weeks to get my fiancé and my family back, but I reached my limit when Christmas came around and I went to my mom's house to try to make peace. During this time, I slept on different couches. There was no one there when I knocked on the door at my parents' house. Then my friend called me and said she had just seen on Facebook that my family was celebrating Christmas in a different state and had shared pictures online. My sister's parents, grandparents, and even my fiancé and his family were there. When I saw the pictures, I couldn't hold back tears because they all looked so happy. I sobbed for days on end before I chose to block them all. I even gave back my engagement ring. A friend of mine told me about someone a couple of hours away who needed help in his restaurant. The person he knew even had cheap housing above where he worked, so I could live there and work at the same time. I wished I could start over with my life, because it hurt that no one helped me and everyone left me to handle things on my own. Things went well for me and I could move pretty fast. I had to work more than 10 hours a day and live in a tiny flat, but I saved a lot of money. I no longer live in the apartment because I was able to rent a much nicer house. However, I am still the assistant manager at the restaurant. It's been about 2 years since I left, and I still haven't talked to any of my family. What was going on with him? I didn't know until someone knocked on my door. He used to be my fiancé. What can I say? I was shocked. All of these feelings came flooding back, and all I wanted to do was jump into his arms. Then I thought about how much pain I had been through and tried to slam the door in his face. He stopped me and asked me to listen to him out. He told them that Nikki got married and admitted that she had lied about what was going on because she had found someone she loved so much and understood what a bad thing she had done. He told me that a friend told him about me when I asked how he found me. I've been getting calls and texts from my whole family who wants to see me. He asked me to give them some time to decide if I still wanted them in my life. Since he left, I've been a mess. I'm lost because I know I'll never forget Nikki. I didn't care if she died, but it's hard because my other family and fiancé didn't know she was lying. I also felt like they left me too fast without giving me a chance to explain myself. I'm not sure if I should let them go. Anything you could say would be great. After my sister ruined me, my family and fiancé kicked me out. Part 2. My fiancé just came to see me after 2 years, telling me that his family and I wanted to get back together after my sister sabotaged me to make it look like I cheated. I do have some news for you. I never went back to my ex. Even though I didn't know what to do, he must have given my parents my phone number because they texted him to ask to meet up. I never answered, and I was going to set up a Zoom meeting, but they came to my door instead, so I didn't have to. Yes, my dad did. When I opened the door and saw him standing there, I puked and he insisted on cleaning up. It was so sad when he was done that I broke down in tears. I had a lot of different feelings, and the smell of my dad's old cologne made all the memories come back to me. When he tried to hug me, I pushed him away and asked him why he was here. He then told me that he and my mom are splitting up. He said he asked my mom to call me as soon as I left, but she wouldn't. She told him I was acting like a baby, and if I wanted to leave after doing something so bad, I could do it on my own from then on. He told me how long it took them to figure out I wasn't there. He told me that they got home after New Year's Eve and were going to invite me over to talk. My friend told them I left and she didn't know where I was when they called her. Why didn't he hear my side of the story? I asked him why they threw me away so quickly. He just began to cry. He said he didn't mean for things to get so bad, and he really wished he could take it all back. I said they didn't throw Nikki away when they found out she was using drugs and had quit high school. We all went on vacation instead so she could focus on something other than drugs. While we were gone, she became addicted to alcohol, and they always protected her. He said he didn't know my mom was going to send me away. They spent Christmas out of state at the last minute, when he thought it would only be for a few days. He told me that. My mom told him I could go home after they got back. He said everything was still there and she lied when she said she threw away all my stuff. When I asked him what happened to Nikki, he told me she was dead. He doesn't want to be around her, but my mom has been crying to him about her. Please forgive Nikki, because she is sick, and they've already lost one daughter. They can't lose another. He stopped my mom and Nikki and has been telling my ex to find me. When my dad said he stopped my mom and Nikki and told them where I lived, my ex-boyfriend gave in. He said yes when I told him not to show up again unless I say so. When he asked what would happen next, I told him I had no idea and that he had hurt me very badly. After that, I just told him how badly he hurt me, how it hurt to see them happy without me, and how hard it has been. The whole thing made us both cry, but I'm glad I let it all out. I thought a big weight had been taken off my shoulders. Then my dad said he knew a few places in the area and could help me find a better job in a flat. But I told him I wouldn't be leaving this job because my boss had helped me so much and I wanted to thank him no matter what. I told him I didn't want him to do anything for me, but I did want to make up with him. But it had to be my way. I also told him it would take a long time for me to trust him again, and I might never trust him again. He promised to make things right after what he did. He told me Nikki didn't say anything about what she did and why she did it. She told me she thought my ex deserved better than me and she wanted him to be happy because he was giving up too much for the relationship. But she loved him like a brother and wanted to end the engagement. That night, she asked her friend to take me home and take me out of the club so she could take pictures for her plan. She said nothing sexual happened. That was it. I fell asleep on the couch. He seems to be proof that he was up all night playing video games until I woke up. I told my dad I didn't want those things anymore when he was going to get them from my mom's house and bring them to me. So I went to ask about Nikki's husband. He told me that my mom has been keeping the whole thing quiet, but he had his number and wrote it down for me. I chose to call Nikki's husband after my dad left. What if I could hear her in the background? I was sick and sweaty the whole time. Well, anyhow, when he picked up, I just spit everything out, which I deeply regret because I should have eased into it for him. He sounded really confused, and I explained the entire situation again. I even went into detail about her drug and alcohol problems. I was honestly expecting him to curse me out and defend Nikki. Instead, he let out a long sigh and, well, turns out, he had a feeling she wasn't exactly innocent. Turns out her and his sister have been having problems and she has been spouting non-stop lies about his sister and has caused a huge rift between them. His sister didn't even attend their wedding. I told him I was sorry, but he should make things right with his sister, because Nikki was the problem, not her. We spoke a little more and he hung up. I'm not entirely sure what he is going to do with that information. I hope he cuts his losses and leaves her because he sounded like a really nice person, and even he has lost his own sister because of Nikki. So I have decided to reconcile with my dad. My mother has always run the show their entire marriage, so the fact he is putting his foot down and divorcing her and going no contact with Nikki shows he is serious about wanting to make amends. I don't think I will ever reconcile with my mother, as she thinks Nikki is a victim also in all this, and at this point I don't care to listen to her excuses. If she reaches out and we talk, I will update the post again. For my ex, I haven't had the time to meet with him and talk. Though my dad mentioned he wanted to come with my dad, but he told him I would be too overwhelmed if both were there and seeing them separated will help make clear decisions. He also mentioned my ex was arrested for assaulting Nikki's friend who lied about the entire situation. He was being charged, but the charges were dropped a few days later. I will update the post again when I have time to speak to my ex. Thank you guys for listening to this story. It's something that has been bottled up in me for a long time.